This video is made possible by the following mad lads. All their awesome gear they supply to me can be checked out in the description below. Hey guys, Electric Boy here, and welcome back to RF2 for another video. Now, whilst I was on my holiday in Ireland, the guys over at Studio 397 released this, a car that I knew was coming for quite some time, the Gen 2 Formula E car. So if you are unfamiliar with the series, Formula E is an all-electric Formula series, meaning this thing is powered by an electric motor. The motor's peak power output, I think that's how it works, I'm sure it isn't, I think it's a bit different with electric motors, is 250 kilowatts, and that roughly translates to 335 brake horsepower, which isn't bad at all for an electric motor. And that power lasts longer. You might remember back in 2018 and 2017, before the Gen 2 car came in, that the drivers would have to do rather silly looking mid-race car swaps in order to get to the end, so hop out of one car into another. Luckily they haven't got to do that anymore, so I find myself becoming more and more of a Formula E fan as time has gone on. So I'm curious to see just how fast this car is compared to other cars from other series. And as you guys might know, I have a series of videos on this channel pretty much dedicated to that. So today we're going to see just how fast this Gen 2 Formula E car can lap the Nordschleife. Right, so here we are in our familiar starting point at the end of the lap at the Nordschleife. As you can probably tell by my webcam, the way that I'm squinting right now, I'm currently being somewhat blinded by the late afternoon sun. It's been behind clouds all day, but as soon as I get my my video ready to record, it decides, you know what, Jimmy, I'm going to burn your retinas. I can tell you already this car is definitely going to be faster than the Gen 1, but by how much I don't know. In terms of setup, all I've done is increase the power to 250 kilowatts, which is the qualifying trim for this thing. And I've also changed the gearing to the V max setting, which basically means that we can go, well, this thing's top speed, something you would never see on the street circuits that it usually races at. And of course, something else about the Gen 2 Formula E car, which definitely differentiates it from the first gen, is that this thing will last a full race on one single charge. In fact, in the bottom right hand corner there of the HUD, you can see a number, 71.27 is what it's on now. That number represents the amount of charge left in the battery out of 100% essentially. So after my outlap, I've not even used 30%, meaning that we can probably do another lap after this one if I wanted to. So I actually decided after doing that little intro to take another outlap just to get used to the car, and I'm glad I did, because this car has a very different way of going fast than your kind of standard car, your standard race car on slick tyres, your standard combustion engine car. So memorize that number in the bottom right hand corner, because I'm going to turn off the HUD now as we have a go at taking this Gen 2 Formula E car around the Nordschleife. So tyres are pretty much up to temperature, so hopefully it shouldn't be too much too scary early on. It's coming up to the start of our lap now. Weight on the power, soft on the throttle, and away we go then for our lap of the Nordschleife in the eerily quiet Gen 2 Formula E car. Really soft on the brake coming into the first corner. Now we can get on the throttle a bit. Still in second gear, only 2 gears in this, and you spend pretty much the entire lap in second gear. Through hats and back, easy, wow, tyre got a little bit scary there on exit, just managed to gather it back up again, braking nice and early through here, because although we have a car that's actually fairly quick in a straight line, full stop, we are on a road-going tyre compound, so a road tyre, and that, whilst I remember to say so, is definitely the thing that restricts this car the most. We have a little bit of downforce on this Gen 2 car, a little bit, but you really can't use it with that road tyre. Anyway, coming up the flue plats now. There you go, soft on the power on the way out. Try not to slide the car too much, you lose speed doing that. And now we start to really stretch the legs on this Gen 2 Formula E car. 260 k's there, which is faster than I thought this thing could do. As we come through the fast left-hander, you can't really go flat through here. The tyre will not allow it. And then we brake quite early by our standards for this right-hander, because if you brake too much harder than this, the tyre will lock and you'll go spearing off into the barrier, which isn't really good for the hot lap, I hear. Anyway, downhill now again, getting up to speed. It's quite nerve-wracking when you get up to speed, because you have to scrub it back off again. I am using a regeneration map to bring back some of the electric charge I use. under braking and under some acceleration or being off throttle, and so it does mean the braking is a little bit different to what it would be in a combustion engine car, where there is no, well, for the majority, there is no hybrid or electric unit to worry about. Anyway, coming up to the Rebel Tree, which thankfully is in this version of the mod. Hello, Rebel Tree, good to see you. And this left-hander, as my lisp comes into play, is usually quite quick, but in this it's a lot slower. And again, you were just a slave to what the tyre wants to do. You see all four there slid as I tried to turn in a little bit too quickly, to be fair to that left-hander. And again, down the bottom here, having to drive it almost like an old historic car. A little bit of slip angle, but not too much. However, you can't slow down too much, otherwise you end up just crawling around. So you're always on this edge. You see they're understeering quite a bit through there, although it's quicker than slowing down to what I was doing before in my outlap. So down to first gear, pretty much any place to do that on the track. And the gears are only really used, I think, anyway, for regeneration. I might be wrong saying that, because this being an electric motor, the torque is just everywhere. As soon as you're on the power, you have pretty much maximum torque, which is fantastic. It makes it very leery out the corners, I must say. You see me being quite progressive on the power coming out, because if I'm not, that happens. Car gets sideways and scary things happen, which we don't like. Coming up to this fast left-hander, I think it's just... No, it's not flat, I thought it was. Could be flat, I think, if I was braver, but I'm a wuss, so I'm not. Easy now, easy now. And of course, as I mentioned before, one of the big differences between this car and the Gen 1 car is that with the Gen 1 car, I had to turn the battery consumption off because it struggled to do a full flying out lap and a hot lap on one charge. This will do about, I think, 3 laps. That's including the out lap around here. So, which is pretty decent. That's on full qualifying charge. I know, of course, it's still not a massive length of time compared to how long a tank of fuel will go in a car, but it's definitely progression. I'm always a fan of seeing things progress the way that Formula E has, as I nearly died through there. Again, early on the brakes. Try not to brake too much and steering at the same time, because car does not respond to that. The tyre does not respond to that. What I would give to see this thing on slick tyres, I think it will be pretty damn quick. So as for lap time, I'm not really sure. Oh god, that's bad through there. I got a bit blinded, I must admit, by the odd track textures. Not the fastest through there. As for lap time, I would love to see this thing break 7 minutes. I am not sure if I'll be able to do it or not, but we'll give it a red hot go. There you go. So coming up to this, my favourite section of the track now, which is all about really having mechanical grip. So we'll see what this thing has. Bit of downforce never went amiss either, but as we're sideways out of there, trying to just power out of it. Sometimes you get away with that, sometimes the car goes round. We're going to try and avoid the latter. There you go, soft down here. Throw it to the inside, use all that curb there. We can do that with this tyre. A bit softer, these cars, than what you'd expect from a normal open wheeler. They run on street circuits, which are very rough, of course, so the car's actually set up quite soft as default. Try not to understeer too much. Just try not to get too overconfident. It's so easy to go around there. There you go, up to YouTube corner. This is a problem corner in practice, because you slide out and then you start getting on the power and the car just continues to rotate. And again, as you can imagine, that ends up with you going in the barrier and feeling sorry for yourself, which we don't like. Really is a lot of work driving this thing fast. It might not be the quickest car in our little challenge so far, but my word, it's a challenge to drive for sure. Soft over this section and back on the power. There you go, nice. Now we can really start opening up the taps again. Be a little bit of a lift through here because the car will understeer off otherwise. Again, oh man, 250 k's coming down here, and just brash on the brake, almost like the LMP1 brake in the Audi R18. It's a soft brake, it isn't a violent one. There you go, back on the power, trying to keep the speed as much as I can. Now through the second carousel, the worst corner on the circuit. Do not at me. Oh, that was very close to going off the track there. I had to get off the power. Would have lost about a tenth or two doing that. Now coming up to this very tricky forever right-hander. Feels like forever when you're going through it, especially in this car. Now back on the power. Trying to get the car to slip a bit. Luckily it did, and now we get to just see what this Formula E can do with its reeing electric motor. 260 k's, there it is. just a matter of sitting and waiting. I'm not quite sure what our time is at, but we'll have a look when we go across the start-finish line. I'll bring it up so you guys can see it. In fact, you'll see the time. It will say best lap. I can't see that. My wheel actually obscures this. You'll know the time before I do. Now, the finish line is a little bit further back on this version of the circuit than it is on the Assetto Corsa one, so I don't know, it's going to be tight. Anyway, coming up to the last section now. Got to focus on getting my braking right and braking earlier again than I think. There you go. Really soft on the brakes there, a little bit too soft I think, but we're through in one piece, which is the important bit. Last corner, oh, the thing's understeering so much. Harden the power, and the time is going to be, I look to my OBS, it is a 7:02.4. Oh man, there were a couple of mistakes on that lap, and I think I probably would have got under 7 minutes had I not bottled it. But this series is not about perfection. It's about getting the hang of the car as quick as I can and going around and seeing what it does. And with this car being as skatey as it is, I'm pretty happy with a 7:02.4. And I gotta say, it's faster than I thought it would be. Just to, I think, go over it again, I think the thing that holds this thing back the most are the tyres. If there was a way to somehow have slick tyres in this car, I am confident this thing would very easily probably get to about 6:30 or so. But on these road-going tyres, that's not a bad time at all. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the video and enjoyed seeing what this Gen 2 Formula E car had here at the Nordschleife, make sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoyed it, hit subscribe to be notified of future videos and future streams. Just before we go, let's see how much charge we have left. So there you go, I've done 2 laps around here, an out lap and a hot lap. I still have 40% charge left. I could do another lap if I wanted to. Not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Anyway, thank you so much to my patrons and sponsors. Take care, have an awesome day. See you all next time.